Okay, so this is Thomas from TC Vape Reviews. We're going to be doing another review video on an RDA. Which RDA, you ask? The Patriot. One of our made in United States, USA drippers. And what's a dripper, you ask? It is a device that goes on top of your mod battery, and it just has a simple coil with wick that you drip your juice directly upon. You put your cap on over it and you vape it. Very popular right now. And I'm going to show you how to build that. Before I do though, this is going to be a somewhat longer video, so I'm going to complete my review up to a point. Sorry, camera zoomed out on the fog. If you want to learn how to build on this, a very simple, easy build, it produces a lot of vapor and a lot of flavor, stay tuned after the review portion and you will get to see how to build a coil and put in a cotton wick. My thoughts about this particular RDA is price is good, 60-70 bucks for the authentic, which should be pretty affordable for a lot of people. For those of you it's not affordable for, there is a clone version out there. Now I will say this, the clone version, there is a couple different kinds, particularly the one that is not a true 22mm. You will not like. It would be kind of similar to getting a Trident. So if you like the Trident and you just want a Trident with this cap on it, then by all means you can spend your $6-7 bucks and get that. If you want the clone that is closely resembled to a Patriot, you want to get the 22mm one, because the Patriot is a full-size 22mm RDA. So what does that mean? Well, if you're kind of new to this, that means you've got more room, and more room is a wonderful thing, particularly if you've got eyes like mine that are beginning to fail in their mid-30s. So I find that on this particular RDA that I get a ton of flavor and a ton of vape. And for me that's a good thing, because I mean, who doesn't like to chunk out a big cloud and go, hey, I'm one of the big boys too, I'm chunking out clouds. But at the same time, I want to at least enjoy what I'm vaping. I mean, I did drill it out to some larger air holes. I've got a .19 build, and I think it came out after everything was said and done with juice and everything. It was probably like a .25. We'll see in the other video. But with the larger holes and everything, I still get a ton of vapor production, and I get a fulfillment of that flavor and nicotine. I give this guy a big thumbs up. Big thumb up in the air like that. I like it. I think it's worth the price. I would find that it's close. Actually, I find that it's a lot like the Nimbus as far as flavor and vapor production. And matter of fact, I find that it can handle the heat better than the Nimbus. The Nimbus shell or the cover gets hot pretty quick on these hotter builds, whereas this guy handles the heat really well. Also, I like the fact that the deck is really large, so when I overjuice, and with these air holes being up the way I drilled them, I'm not getting a lot of leakage everywhere. So I do enjoy that fact. So on my particular Patriot that I have has Phillips heads, 3 of them. So it is a 3-post system, and you have a positive in the middle and 2 negatives on the outside. But we'll get into closer detail. So then that's my review. I recommend this. RDA for new and experienced users. And you can't beat the price. So big thumbs up on the Patriot. If you want to watch the build, stay tuned. Build's coming up. Alright guys, so we're going to be dealing with this Patriot. Looks just like this. Now if you notice, I drilled a hole here and here. The easiest way to do this is with a drill press and have something actually physically holding it in place. But if you don't, I have my Nimbus here where I actually used a Dremel. So there's your two options, you know, drilling out a hole like that, and you basically, you want to start off, you know, like a medium-sized hole and work your way up to a larger hole, just so you can find the right for you. Now I like a good sized hole, so for me this is perfect. And basically it's about the size of my screwdriver here, and this is just a little rocket screwdriver made by DeWalt. So if you want something to judge size by, there's something that you could use. It's just a little rocket Phillips tip screwdriver, or even my pencil head goes right in there, just past the point. But that's, you do need to find some place to do that. You need to make a little bit of air hole. You know, with as cheap as these Patriots are as clones, it's something that you can experiment with and not really ruin anything that would be crazy. But you can go a little overboard, put a little bit too much airflow in there, and then you're not going to get very good flavor. And that's where the Dremel would come in place. If it's something that you're just wanting to mess with and you don't mind that Dremel look, I particularly don't care. I'm more after the vape and not making sure that I'm satisfied and don't want to smoke. So for here, you can actually just take that Dremel and work your way into it. Start off with a small hole and just open it up larger and larger until it's where you want it. And I mean, Dremels, you can get one from Harbor Freight for probably 20-30 bucks. Get your blades and keep going. So it just depends on what tools you have available to make that happen. A lot of vape shops will drill you holes even now, especially if they sell these and they're a reputable store. A lot of them carry an actual drill press right there inside, and they'll drill out your holes for you. That's a good service that they should provide if they're selling these, because ultimately the air holes that these come in with are, I mean, they're just not adequate enough. So anyways, you're going to take your dripper, your RDA, rebuttable dripping atomizer, and we're going to take it apart. Now, I'm just going to use this guy just to hold on to it so I can pull my cap off. Now, I went ahead and took out the build that you saw prior, and I'm going to show you a few little things that you can do to make your life easier. First, grab you a little multi-tool, and I'm knocking everything everywhere on here, or just a sharp point knife. And on this center post here, you'll see that it's got a fairly small hole, and then these each one have a hole. That's where your kanthal wire is going to be going through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sharp knife and actually kind of bore that hole out just a little bit so my kanthal can go through easier. Now if you have a real small drill bit that you can just, and that barely fits in there, and that you can smooth it out a little bit more with, that would work. This seems to work pretty good for me. These are pretty thin wall threaded tubes, so it really doesn't take much. So there you go. See, I'm just cleaning that right on out, and then I go on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here, because what we're going to do here in a second is we're going to have two coils going through. We're going to have, this is the positive post that I'm working on, and this is where everything's going to stack up on. Now this is not any crazy build, no twisted jack jumping across the floor coil. This is just a good old build, And you know, I guess I'll just leave it up to Rip to show you all the other stuff that could drive you nuts for hours and hours on end. But you can ultimately, that's a hobby, and I enjoy doing that from time to time, but this is something that you could do fairly quickly, you know, and get you up and going again. So now I'm just making sure that there's no metal pieces that are sticking inside there to stop the flow of my wire. And speaking of wire, I'm going to go ahead, and I did tell you I was going to pull off the spool, so I'm going to go ahead and pull off a good amount of wire to work with. So I'm pretty sure for you guys that are just starting out, you're not going to have a bobbin, but here is my kanthal. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this kanthal through here and make sure that it goes through nice and easy. Let me get this on screen for you, that'd probably help. So I'm just going to run that through there, make sure that I don't feel any, you know, burrs or anything sticking out. Just run it back and forth, make sure it's good and loose. Do the same thing for the other side, because trust me, this 24 gauge can get a little bit funky in there. Now this is sub-ohming. This is going to be a pretty low build. I'm imagining like a 3 ohm or a 2 ohm build. There we go. So you need to have a good battery. And while we're on the subject, let me go ahead and show you this. This is what people are talking about when they say the monkey. Monkey. This is a 30 amp battery. Okay. Now the this guy right here, it just depends on how frequently you vape throughout the day. But if you're going to chain vape this, which I'm pretty sure when you first start you might, just because you think it's really cool, but as you go along you'll kind of settle down. This will last me most of my day. So this is a pretty good battery, and it's been out there for a while. It's trusted. You know, you might consider like some of the 30 amp Sony batteries. A lot of people like those, but this is what I have, so this is what I'm showing you. Most vape shops still have these, and you can get them every day. Alright, so now we're going to do a little bit of burning on the kanthal. And remember I was telling you that I was going to use this this little jet here. And there we go. Does just like the blowtorches, guys. Look at that. But the difference between that and, let's say, a blowtorch is that it goes a little bit quicker with a blowtorch, which would be something like this. Now I'm going to assume that you didn't buy this, and I'm going to show you how you could do it without having to have a blowtorch. So if you want to save yourself some money and you don't want to buy a lighter and all that, maybe you have kids or whatever and you don't want them to be around that, we'll just show you how you do this. So the trick is we want to make our coils as close to the same as possible. So it's real important to count your wraps. So with your Patriot, you should get a screwdriver that looks just like this. So conveniently we're going to use a screwdriver. This screwdriver. Look at that. Alright, so you just take your wire, you're going to hold it right here on one end. What I do is I just kind of bend it down so it's right there underneath my thumb, and then you just slowly take that around, and you want to make those wraps nice and tight. So there's one wrap, and you don't have to be exact because we can fix it. 2 wraps, there's 3 wraps, there's 4. Let's do one more. Let's make it a 5 wrap. 5. Now we want both these leads going the same way. Now look, I kind of did it like you probably are going to end up with something like that. This is so I can tell you how to fix it. You probably have something like this laying around your house to fix your faucet sink or whatever. just grab this end where that loop is and pull it. Get it good and tight. Now, when you pre-burn these with the torch, this is a lot easier because it will hold its wraps a lot better. But since I'm going to assume that we're going to go ahead and do this as far as a new person would do it, this is what I'm going to show you. So if you just brought this home and got the kanthal and everything, you forgot to bring anything else, this is what you're going to do. You see how we cleaned that right up? Sucks. Alright, there you go. See how I cleaned that right on up? That's not a bad coil. Alright? So, there we go. Get back down here, give this camera a few seconds to focus. Okay, so now we're back in focus. You can use a little pair of dikes like this, or fingernail clippers on your multi-tool if you got one of those. And now we're just going to trim this down. Good Lord. There, trim that down right there. Alright, now since you're kind of new to this, we're going to leave them longer so you have a little bit more to work with, because at first it's kind of cantankerous. It is kind of difficult to mess with. So leave those leads long so you can get them right through all the openings that we were talking about. So we did 5, so we're going to do 5 again. So we're going to set that coil out of the way. And here we go. We're going to do our 5 wraps one more time. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, see how it's kind of all spread out there? So I'm going to grab my pliers again, grab this little end, and pull while holding the wire on there so it tightens that up. Go ahead and push that down with my fingernail where it bunches those wraps all up. Alright. Alright, and then we should end up with a nice clean looking coil again. And take that. Once again, we're going to cut this. Leave that one lead a little longer. Okie dokie. Now these are really handy tools to have. They can grab this wire quite nicely. So the first challenge you have is getting both these wires, one through here and then one through here. Now if you notice, even on mine, it's a really tight fit, so we're not going to actually bend these wires or anything yet. We're just going to lay the first one in. And I should have brought my glasses in, but old man can't survive. Slide that other one right in. Now if you bore that out enough with your knife, that really shouldn't be too bad. So that's how I got it. So you should end up something like that. You're going to have a little wire on this side, the wire on the other side, and those guys sitting right there. Alright, so we come back down here. Now the other 2 leads need to go into the other side little post. So you have your, let me get my pointer, you have our positive post, that's a negative, and that's a negative. So then we're going to put this guy through here. And I just saw that the tip of this wire actually has a little curl up. So I'm going to take that little tip that's curling up out and get a nice straight piece of wire there. So just cut that tip off if you have the same issue. That way it goes through right nice and easy, okay? Alright, so that goes right in there. In that hole. And I'm just kind of doing a wiggle back and forth. This 24 gauge can handle quite an abusive treatment, so don't be too scared. If you're really worried about that you might mess up your wraps, whichever coil you're working on, just slide that screwdriver back through there and give her a good push. Alright, so I got that guy right in there, and I'm going to push it all the way on forward. And instead of continuing to push, I'm starting to see how the back ends of that loop on that coil are starting to push back. Now's where my pliers come into play. This is really important to leave that screwdriver on there while doing this. So you're going to grab your pliers, go ahead and grab that little piece of wire there that's poking out. We'll go ahead and pull it on through. And once you get it to about where you want it on the deck, which is midway between the deck and the post, hold on to that screwdriver and go ahead and tighten that loop down. Alright, and then you're going to grab your other wire and pull it. Notice I have my finger on both sides of that screwdriver. And we're going to go ahead and tighten that guy on down. Alright? Alright, alright. Let's see how many times we say alright. If you're drinking, you should be taking a hit every time I say alright tonight. Alright, alright, alright. Oh, you're going to be shot, dude. Okay, so here we go. We go right through here with the next one. I'm going to go ahead and pull out this guy. Put this one in over here now. And we got to work this guy over a little bit more. And get that going through the hole that I can barely see because I'm blind. But if I can do this without my glasses, you definitely can do this. Alright, so I got it in there and I'm pushing on that forward. Go ahead and grab my wires here, pull this wire up here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this on in. Whoop, and I broke my own rule. I didn't put my finger on that side. See, that's what happens. Midway between the deck, hold it like I told you, and pull both sides where they're nice and tight. That way those coils are staying nice and tight on that screwdriver. Alrighty. That looks pretty good. I'm going to pull this one over just a little bit more, just so I don't have that big old long lead there. And I'm going to pull this over just a little bit more. Alright. So now we need to go ahead and tighten these up. I start with the center first. And snug is good. You don't want to really go nuts on them. Snug is all you need. Snug is all you need. Yeah, I'm not going to break into song and dance for you. Alright, tighten this guy up. And then we're going to go ahead and adjust these coils before we cut anything. So like this coil kind of got bent down, so I'm going to put my screwdriver in and just get it where it's nice and horizontal. And I actually want to bring that back just a tad. And the reason why is I like a lot of airflow underneath my coils. A lot of people like to put them around the deck, particularly like nano coils and stuff. But we're going to bring them up. I want you to have the full flavor of those juices. Alright, so now I'm just bending everything up that I know I need to cut. Since I'm blind, I'm going to have to be really careful not to cut the actual good wires that I need. There we go. Yep. There it goes. And cut this guy. And cut this guy. Alright, so something like that. Now, we're going to test it. I'm going to show you two different ways of testing it. First, we're going to put it on our little black box, little ohm reader. 0.19. So let's go ahead and do our Ohm's Law calculator, just so everybody's with me here. we're going to go to ohmslawcalculator.com. We're going to type in our voltage, which is 4.2. We're going to do amps, 0.19. We're going to calculate, I'm sorry, not amps. We're going to go to resistance, 0.19. And then we're going to calculate. We need a current amp rating of 22 amps. Hence a 30 amp battery. Got it? Now watts, that tells me I'm going to have 92 watts of power, so holy crap. Okay? Alright, so everybody's with me. And we're going to put this on the kindling. Kindling unscrews the base to get your battery out and in. My dog's trying to attack me, so you hear his little toenails going. And put our base on here. So now you get to go through the adventure of making sure these are firing evenly, and we're going to do a little bit of coil smishing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do this with it with no wick in it, or you're going to dry burn it. Alright, now see, this one coil on the left is firing quicker than the one on the right. So what's some things that we could do? One, go ahead and kind of squeeze these after they've heated up to make us a nice tight coil. So look at that. Look what just happened there. Did you see that? Alright, so now they're firing evenly, and real important to note, and I'm going to see if I can't get a close up here of just this coil. Come on camera, like me for 2 seconds. Alright, so look at this top coil here. Watch, it's going to burn from the middle and work its way out. Middle, out. See that? That's what you're looking for. Okay. So now we got some good coils in there. Now it's time to put a wick in. So be sure to lock your device, your mechanical mod. If you're using the kindling, you're just going to do just like that till it stops. Set that down on your table. And now we're going to take some cotton, and this cotton, if you got the same kind that I did, just kind of unrolls. It's really nice the way that it just unrolls right on out. So we're going to take just a little tuft of coffin. Wow, I cannot talk today. Okay, so we're going to work this cotton up where it looks like a nice piece of string at the front and a little tuft in the back. And what I do is I just thread it right through the coil with that little string in the front, and just grab that little piece right there at the front and pull it on through. Now this is kind of where you have to judge. You want that cotton to go through there smoothly, but see how it's kind of catching right there? So now I'm going to work it back and forth. It's got a little catch where it's just a little bit thicker than it's supposed to be. So what I'm going to do is just kind of work that cotton back and forth where it starts to stretch out my cotton and thin it out a bit. There we go. That way I've got plenty of tuft of cotton on each side, but the cotton itself is not bound up between that coil. So that way the juice, once it gets into the wick, is not going to expand and cut off the flow. Imagine it being kind of like a water hose. If you stepped in the middle of it, then the water's not going to flow really good to the other side or to it, because we want to make sure that we get good amounts of juice all the way through these coils. Alright, so we can grab this other side and pull it all the way through. Okay, so now Camera focus. Okay, so now we got cotton going through, and I'm just going to twist these two ends together like such. Then take a pair of scissors, which most of us should have a pair of scissors, and I happen to have mine right here, and I'm just going to cut it. And then I like to take my tweezers, you can use a toothpick if you want to do this, and just tuck that right down in there. Now what we want is we want some of this down actually into the deck. Because we've raised it up off the deck, this cotton's not going to be able to absorb anything. So if we put some down on the deck, particularly one off of this end and one off of this end, then any juice that gets down to the deck, then we can absorb it and bring it back up to the coils. So now you should end up with something like that. If it's not pretty, it's not the end of the world. Don't fret. As long as they're burning evenly, you're good. And long as your battery can handle it, you're good. It does not have to be super pretty. Okay, so now we're going to take some mystery juice and we're going to go ahead and get everything good and wet. Very important not to fire this while your cotton is dry. Your cotton will catch on fire, and it's just not a good time. So it's very important that you have your very important that you have your battery lock on, or a device that you know for sure that it's not going to misfire on you while you're doing this. So I put a lot of juice on there. The reason being is I'm going to go ahead and burn through some of this juice sitting right here just like this to kind of go ahead and get that cotton flowing really good. So we're going to go ahead and unlock this and let's see how we did, shall we? So that's producing good. This is all vapor. And I'm just going to pulse that through. I wouldn't let it run for longer than 3 or 4 seconds at a time. My longest drag I take is about 6 seconds, and that's when I'm really going after it to have some fun. And we'll send some smoke signals up to our Indian chiefs. Now the reason why I build like this is airflow is real important, especially if you're chasing the big clouds. The way I have this built up is we can get lots of airflow underneath, all the way through the chamber, under here, and also that chamber bellowing through there will actually help increase our flavor. So not only we're going to get great clouds, but we're going to get good flavor too. So I kind of emptied out that juice a little bit, and yeah, it really doesn't take much, because that first round with your cotton, it doesn't really absorb very well. So now I'm going to actually put on the cotton I'm going to vape, and we're just going to make sure that this guy's not too hot for me, which it is important if you're doing a 0.19 build to go ahead and get you some good air holes. Now if you find that it's too hot, where I did 5 wraps, I would probably go up to 7 and 8 wraps and give yourself a little bit cooler vape if you're not looking for a good warm vape. Now, important, air holes need to line up with these coils. So my air hole is here. I'm going to line it up where that coil is, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a mystery vape off to the side of the screen. And there you go, guys. I mean, that doesn't get much easier than that. So